Welcome to Northwest, a Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Ben Gable, and I use the pronouns he, him, and I serve as your congregational administrator. According to the COVID Act Now website, the Detroit metro region is currently in the medium community risk level category. Therefore, our choir will be performing live during this morning's service, however, without communal singing. This morning, we have the Reverend Fred Wooden, our contract minister, who will be speaking about On a Mission, which takes a look behind mission statements for what they really should be saying. Do you know what Northwest mission statement is? Here at Northwest, the mission statement reads as, Northwest Unitarian Universalist Congregation is a religious community that challenges us to grow in spirit, knowledge, acceptance, and action. We provide support and warmth in times of need and joy. This morning, we also have our Acting Director of Religious Education, Eva Leventer, participating, our Choir Director, Ken Hermanat, and our pianist, Alex Myers, are creating beautiful music with our Northwest singers. Alex is also running our AV Tech booth this morning as well. If you are here as a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form link that you will see in the chat box. If you're with us in person, please fill out the visitor sign-in form located in the atrium. We're going to try something new by pre-recording the announcements and playing them before we begin each worship service. Starting this week, please email your announcements to office@northwestuu.org by Thursday at noon each week in order for them to be included in our weekly newsletter, announcement slides, and the pre-service announcement video. Today, after the service, coffee and tea will be provided. We will also have a potluck in the multi-purpose room. The membership committee is planning to host monthly potlucks on the second Sundays of each month. Please remember to keep your face mask on until you're seated at a table. The Getting to Know UU gathering will take place in the sanctuary after the potluck. This will be an opportunity to get to know you. You'll also have time to share about yourself and to learn more about how our congregation is organized. You'll meet a few of the key leaders from the governing board and committees that will help the church to run smoothly. You'll also hear about our religious education programs for adults and children, plus learn more about our UU history and our guiding 8 UU principles. In addition, Reverend Fred will facilitate a discussion group to delve deeper into broader conversations about this morning's sermon and the fundamental values behind Unitarian Universalism. Folks on Zoom can join Reverend Fred by staying in the main session room after the service. For those in person, this conversation will take place in room C. To find more information about our events and updates about the Northwest community, you can find them on our website, weekly newsletter, and Facebook page. Thank you for listening, and now we will begin our worship service.
We begin our service today with a land acknowledgement. The state of Michigan occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi. Northwest UU recognizes historic indigenous communities in Michigan and those who were forcibly removed from the land. We further recognize the ongoing relationship of dependence upon and respect for all living things of earth, sky, and water. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. We light this chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing that this morning many others across our land and around the world are doing the same. For us and our far-flung kin, it is a light of peace, justice, and of love. But without work, these aspirations flicker out as soon as the candle is extinguished. Let us all join together to accept the challenge of doing the hard work that makes these aspirations real.
Now we will hear a story. Thank you guys for sharing. This story is called The First Butterflies, and it is an Ojibwe oral tradition, from the Ojibwe oral tradition. Long ago, when human twins were born to Spirit Woman, she relied on the animals to help her take care of them. All the animals loved the first human babies and did everything they could to help them. The dog watched over them. The bear gave his fur to give them warmth. The wolf hunted for them. The doe provided them with milk. And the beaver and the muskrat bathed them. The birds sang lullabies to them. The dog was an excellent guardian. The twins had only to cry out, and the dog would jump to his feet, wagging his tail, and he found out that what was troubling the children, and he set it right, or called someone else to help. Did the babies need fresh moss to keep them comfortable? The dog appealed to the muskrat and the beaver. Were the babies hungry? The dog ran to the wolf or to the doe, who gave the babies their nourishing milk. Were the flies bothering the infants? The dog asked the spider for help, or jumped and snapped at the pests until the babies laughed. When the babies wanted to be amused, the dog did his best tricks for them. He rolled over, he sat up, he wagged his tail. He tickled the babies into delightful laughter by licking their noses. And when the babies were quiet again, the dog sank down beside them and covered his eyes with his paws to rest as he needed. After a long time, it became clear that something was wrong with the children. The worried animals who had been summoned by the bear gathered around the twins. "Brothers," said the bear, "the children cannot walk. They do not run, and they do not play with the young. What do we do to help them?" The wolf spoke first. They eat meat, and I bring them. They are not weak." The doe agreed. Every day they drank milk. The beaver and the muskrat told the other animals that the twins waved their arms and legs and with great strength at bath time. Indeed, they often splashed and splashed until the beaver and the muskrat were soaked and out of patience. And the beaver laughed as if they understood what had gone done. Then they went waving their arms and legs as the fish had taught them to do. When Nanabush came to play with the children, the animals told him of their concern. And Nanabush thought a while, and he said, "You have cared for these children very well. In fact, you have cared for them so well that they never can do anything for themselves. All little ones need to reach out for what they want instead of always having everything handed to them. I shall find out what we need to do to help the babies learn to walk." Nanabush journeyed far to the west, to the land of high mountains, where the cloudy peaks stretched up to the sky. From the towering heights, he called to the Great Spirit, who was the creator of the children and had been watching over them. The Great Spirit would now know that what should be done to teach the children to walk. And in reply to Nanabush's call, the Great Spirit told him to search along the slopes of the mountains, and then he would find thousands of tiny sparkling stones. Nanabush did as the Great Spirit had said, and he collected hundreds of stones, blue ones, green ones, red ones, and yellow ones. Soon he had a huge pile of gleaming stones from the clouds. Nanabush squatted beside the pile of colored stones and watched them for a long while, but nothing happened. At last, Nanabush grew bored and restless and began to toss the stones, one after another, into the air. As the stones fell back to the earth, he caught them. Then he tossed a handful of stones into the air and, catching them as they fell back, he threw a second handful, but this time nothing came back into his outstretched hands. Nanabush looked up. To his astonishment, he saw the pebbles changing into winged creatures of many colors and shapes. The beautiful creatures fluttered here and there, and before they came to nestle on Nanabush's shoulders, soon he was surrounded by clouds and shifting colors, and these were the first butterflies. The butterflies followed Nanabush back to the twins, who crowed with pleasure and waved their arms and their legs outstretched. But the butterflies always fluttered just beyond the grasp of the small, outreached hands. And soon the twins began to crawl and then began to walk and even run in their efforts to catch the butterflies. Now our children, youth, and teachers will proceed to the multipurpose room for some games and then a snack and some affinity groups. Could I have Uriah, why don't you come up and do that?
This month, Northwest is sharing 50% of its plate collections with the Michigan Organization on Adolescent Sexual Health. If you would like to donate, you can do so in a variety of ways that are now visible on your screen. For those of you here in person, if you would like to do it old school, you can place checks and cash in the collection basket.
Hi everyone, I'm Taryn Gal. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director at the Michigan Organization on Adolescent Sexual Health, or MOASH. At MOASH, we mobilize youth voices, engage community partners, and inform decision makers to advance sexual health, identities, and rights. We make sure that young people in Michigan have access to sexual health services and sexual health education that is medically accurate, research-informed, developmentally appropriate, non-shaming, inclusive, and affirming. All of our work is youth-informed. We coordinate over 6 youth advisory councils that each focus on an issue area, an identity, and/or geographic region. Youth are part of MOASH at all levels, as board members, staff members, contractors, youth advisory council members, and we use our funding to advance our mission, which also includes paying these young people who we work with for their time and energy. We would love to connect with you all to see how you can engage more with this work. Please go to www.moash.org or email us at info@moash.org for more information and to follow up with us. We are also on almost all social media platforms. We are so grateful for you and for the support that you are providing. It is because of folks like you that we can work towards a society that celebrates youth identities, advocacy, and informed choices.
The 7 grandfather teachings are the most commonly shared of all North American indigenous teachings. Many indigenous communities use these teachings as moral stepping stones and cultural foundations. Each community has adapted the teachings to suit its own values, but all share the concept of maintaining respect for all living things. So there's something in common with the way we work. As we think about our aspirations for Northwest, may this ancient wisdom, with its values of humility, bravery, honesty, wisdom, truth, respect, and love, resonate in us. Humility in the Anishinaabe tradition is represented by the wolf. Wolves live for their pack, and their ultimate shame is to be outcast from their pack. Wolves live selflessly, avoiding arrogance and self-importance. Bravery is represented by the bear. Mother bear is courageous in protecting her young. Bears also show how to live a balanced life with time for rest, time for survival, and time for play. They remind us to defend what we believe in and what is right for our community, family, and self. Honesty is represented by both the raven and the sabe, and for most of us, Bigfoot would be a more familiar name. They both understand and accept who they are. They do not seek the power, speed, or beauty of others, but use what they have been given to survive and thrive. Beavers represent wisdom because they use their natural gifts wisely for survival. They alter their habitats in environmentally friendly, sustainable ways to benefit their families. Like beavers, we should continuously observe the life of all things around us, listening with clarity and a sound mind, respecting our own limitations and that of others. Truth is represented by turtles, who were here during the creation of Earth and carry all the teachings of life on their backs. The turtle lives life slowly and meticulously, understanding the importance of both the journey and the destination. Like the turtle, we should understand our place in this life and apply that understanding to our actions, being true to ourselves and honoring all others. Respect is represented by buffaloes, who give every part of their being to sustain the human way of living, not because buffaloes are of less value, but because they respect the balance of life and the needs of others. Buffaloes remind us to avoid waste and be mindful of the balance of all living things, and to share and give away what we do not need. Eagle represents love because its strength allows it to carry all the teachings, and each teaching has love at its core. The eagle flies highest and closest to the Creator and can see all the ways of being from great distances. The eagle understands that to know love is to know peace. View your inner self from the perspective of these 7 teachings, and you will be at peace with yourself, with the balance of life, with all things, and with the Creator.
Let's hear it for the choir if you can. A lot of congregations, churches say, we don't want to clap in church. We want to be more, when you can't sing, clapping is your choice. And applause is good. Applause is good. Well, I'm going to go long, but I'm going to give you a little break. First of all, I want to say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and it really is. There is no season more enticing than autumn. The leaves are turning color, creating a living sunset as the trees prepare for the long night of winter we all know is coming. Squirrels are out there scurrying to find and store the nuts they will need for the coming winter. Winter positively demands thoughts of storing things like food and fuel. We're already wondering what will happen for the holidays. Both literally and figuratively, winter feels like scarcity, not enough. No wonder George Martin used the phrase, "winter is coming," to portend bad things in his monumental epic. But winter is more than cold and scarcity. Colleague Minister Greta Crosby asks us to praise winter for its pregnant negativities. Let that phrase sink in, pregnant negativities. We want to be positive, positive, positive. But negativities, like shadows, have value and importance. May Sarton reminds us that nothing blooms in the sun that did not first grow in the dark of the soil. It is seed for the coming spring, this winter that is coming. The dark and the cold are the place where next year's flowers and fruits begin their journey. Now is the seed time, said W.E.B. Du Bois. We are not here to collect the goods, but to plant next year's crop. So we cast wide our hopes at this time of year, flagrantly alive like the trees and their leaves, with the hopes that the bare fields we see today will become a harvest of love and justice, perhaps in our own lifetimes. But even so, even if winter is coming, it is always a reminder that there is yet a spring to follow. So now I'm going to start preaching. That was my prayer. But I feel like we're in the middle of the end of the baseball season, so if you need to stretch a little bit, if you need to go to the seventh inning stretch over here, move your arms around, maybe your shoulders, because I'm going to talk for a bit. You've been sitting for a while, so if you need to stand up, shake it loose, feel free. If you're at home, if you need to be able to kind of move from side to side, you can turn off your camera so we don't know what we're really doing. Here, I can see all these people. I can look at them. So I've got a problem. I think it was John Lennon who said, life is what happens when you're making other plans. Well, the sermon I planned doesn't quite work right now. It's a great sermon. I guarantee that. And I'll get to parts of it. But the point is, you're about to do some important work, and I need to comment on that too. So I was going to talk about, and I will talk about, the three underlying missions of all liberal religion. And you'll notice I said liberal religion, not Unitarian Universalism, because as I've mentioned before, we're not the only ones on this block. We should get over how special we are. We're not. We're good at what we do, but we are not the only ones in the biz. And next month, I'm going to go further, because all this fall I've been counting down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. I mentioned the 5 criteria of liberal religion derived from James Luther Adams. I talked about the 4 spiritual disciplines we all ought to be practicing: ministry, worship, study, service, and sacrifice. And this week I'm going to talk about the 3 missions of liberal religion. Next month I will talk about the 2 beliefs. Yes, we have beliefs. And at the end I'll talk about our one hope. And that will be right at Christmas time, and it'll work perfectly. Unless you go and do something stupid, and then I'll have to go back and change it again. But my point here is it's all part of a larger fabric, of a longer message that literally you can now purchase via Kindle for $4, a book I just published last week. And I am not kidding. It's out there. If you're interested, I'll let you know. That was my plan, to just give you the 3 missions of liberal religion. But y'all intervened. An older Jewish saying, and this is still the High Holy Days, so I can use it, says, man plans, God laughs. So I'm being ridiculed for my hoping that I could get it all done in one go. Because this month, you have to make a decision about what you're going to do with your search with regard to professional leadership. Note that I didn't say minister, because that too is a bigger question. And nor do I have an answer for you. I don't want you to go to this meeting in 2 weeks and say, well, Fred told us to. Don't you dare. In fact, I want to disrupt any decision you've already made, because it's too big a decision to have made up your mind yet. But I can help clarify where the friction is, where the rub is. And if that's uncomfortable, that's a good thing. Now, I've got a problem. Do I talk about mission or ministry? Or can I try to put them both together? And if I try that, you'll get one of 2 results. It could be amazing or it could be confusing. It will probably be some of both. So let's get going. For over 40 years, I have gone to church board meetings, and I spell them both ways. B-O-A-R-D, B-O-R-E-D. I started attending them in earnest in Framingham, Massachusetts in 1978 when I was a student minister, and I've been attending yours since August. That's close to 500 church board meetings. At every one, without fail, they talked about 3 things: money, members, and marble, meaning buildings. That's always on the agenda. How far behind are we? Are we running a deficit? Why aren't people coming to church? What's broken and needs to be fixed? Every month. Even when things are going well, we still wanted to hear about those. Not every month. They scrutinize the minister. Is he, she, they up to the work? Even less, they scrutinized the religious life of the congregation. I came to realize that boards tend to notice 3 things all the time. You've already heard me mention them: money, members, and marble. I'm using mnemonics here, which also starts with M, by the way, because I want you to remember them. And we need simple things to remind us of the stuff that gets easily lost. Money, members, and marble. I've been reading about you. You're interested in those things, and I don't blame you. In part because they can be counted. How many dollars? How many members? How many kids were in Sunday school? How much work do we need to do on the building? It's much, much harder to measure the reasons we use the dollars, we need the members, and take care of the bricks. Those 3 things are what it's really all about. And they also start with M. How lucky are you? Mission, ministry, and meaning. Mission is the reason this community or any congregation exists. Ministry, by the way, is the work you do to accomplish the mission. And meaning is what you feel when you're engaged in that ministry toward that mission. As I said, the first 3 are really easy to measure, but as someone else put it, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Lots of church boards simply assume that if the cash flow is positive, attendance is high, and the building is sound, that they are accomplishing their mission. But is institutional prosperity a sure measure of institutional spiritual health? Someone out there besides me might remember a movie called Mass Appeal. Came out in the early 1980s. Jack Lemmon was the star, and he was portraying a parish priest in a very well-to-do and contented Catholic church. He loved playing golf with rich members. He loved throwing dinners and being invited out. He loved having his before, during, and after dinner drink. He was assigned a seminarian who had been obstreperous with the intent of telling that seminarian or showing that seminarian how to settle down and deal with reality. Instead, the seminarian started asking questions in public. Why aren't women priests among them? And Jack Lemmon's character couldn't come up with a good answer. But his members started saying, Father, you should be doing something about that outrageous seminarian. He's rocking the boat. And the priest felt torn because he began to feel that he was resting on the laurels of the money and the members and the marble, and had been reminded that his duty was to the mission and the ministry and the meaning they entailed. In 2014, local Grand Rapids folk came to me as the senior minister at Fountain Street Church, a large, big building with a big congregation. These people represented Occupy Wall Street. You remember that? And they were camping out in various places, especially in New York, to protest and demonstrate their problem with the, shall we say, the economic policies of the world. And they asked me if they could use our church parking lot, which is right across the street, to camp out. They even asked eventually if they could camp out on the portico. We have a portico. It's very pretty. And I said, yes. I didn't even ask the board. It was so obviously part of our mission. I went on the radio. I was on TV about it. I said, I am doing the work. Win-win, right? No. When our portico filled up with tents full of Occupy Grand Rapids folk, some of our local unhoused people began to camp there as well. Why not? Safety in numbers. When Occupy Wall Street eventually gave up, they stayed. And I wasn't about to kick the homeless off of our porch. When the nearby Episcopal Church finished serving their Sunday breakfast for the folks who lived on the street, especially in the winter, they came up the alley and into our social hall to get warm. Some members stopped coming to worship. They felt uncomfortable in the church. They did not know the people. There was talk of cleanliness and head lice. And reality began to intervene in other ways. Overnight, there would be fights on the portico as people wrestled for who got the last drink. Our bathroom was abused for cleaning up in the morning. Bottles and needles and used condoms turned up. We were not alone in this. Many churches faced the dilemma that I faced, or one like it, between living up to our mission and living with our limits and in. When that happens, institutions naturally choose self-preservation. That is the job of the board, not to put the institution at risk. That's why they read those statements and balance sheets and want to know about the buildings and grounds. The unstated but universal mission of every church is to stay alive. And who can blame them? If you go under, you're not much good for anyone. But here's the question, and it's very difficult for churches to ask this question. Was the threat of the homeless in Grand Rapids a threat to their being? Really? The people in the congregation felt threatened by seeing a lot of unfamiliar, disheveled, melanin-gifted people in my house. But were they a threat to the church? Really? A challenge without doubt. But were they a threat? In the end, preservation not only of the building, but of the way of life prevailed. And I'm not criticizing them in the least, because I think all institutions would face this dilemma in a very similar way. We like walking into a space where we know the others and they know us, where everybody knows your name, as they say in the old sitcom. But if we are truly honest, we will know that what seems like justice to some really is a threat to others, and what seems like a danger to some will be welcome to another. Because where one stands makes a huge difference on how one sees a situation. Over 25 years ago, I encountered a book by Rabbi Edwin Friedman, who was trying to figure out how to work with congregations more holistically, and he applied something called family systems theory to congregations. You might have heard of Murray Bowen and others. Now, we often say, my congregation is my family. Didn't I hear that said earlier? This is my family. Well, Edwin Friedman said, well, why not treat it like that? Maybe it is emotionally similar to a family. And a key insight that Edwin Friedman had was that the difference between a healthy and an unhealthy congregation was whether they had a clear sense of direction, of where they were going, what they were up to. And he used a biblical story to illustrate it. And yes, I use a lot of biblical stuff, but you've already sung words from Isaiah, so you're okay. In this case, Moses and Aaron. Most of you are familiar that out there in the wilderness, Moses went up the mountain to get the tables of the law, but that left his big brother Aaron down there with everybody else doing nothing for a really long time. And the people got restless. They wondered if Moses was ever going to come back. What are we doing in the wilderness? At least we had a place to sleep when we were in Egypt. Come on, Aaron, turn us around. And they said, we need another God, one that will really be where we want that God. And so he said, get your gold together. And according to the story, Aaron made a golden calf, and the people worshiped it. And just as they were having the party of their lives, down comes Moses with the 2 tablets. And in horror at their infidelity, he dashes them to pieces. There's more to the story. But I imagine that at some point Moses looked at Aaron and said, how could you? You knew what we were here for. What did you do? Why did you give in? And Aaron probably said, well, what am I going to do? You're up there with God, and I'm down here with thousands of other people, and they don't know where they're going, and I don't know where we're going. They gave me their gold. I threw it in the fire, and out came this golden calf. That's literally what it says in the Bible. Out came the golden calf. First recorded instance of someone saying, the dog ate my homework. Again and again. Even after that, the people doubted Moses, they rebelled. But here's the deal. Moses did not give in because he had a mission, a very clear mission about what he was there to do and where they were supposed to go. Aaron didn't have the mission. What you need in a leader is not someone to give you a mission, but someone who knows what it is and will remind you of it constantly. This is what we are about. And that's what you're on a quest to find, someone who will be able to do that. But that word, minister, is itself a potential golden calf. Why? Because it's easy to think, well, the minister will tell us what we need to do. And I remind you, minister is not a noun. I am not a minister. I am a clergy person. You might even call me pastor, but you are the ministers of this congregation because that word means to serve. Now, you're good at serving each other, and that's wonderful. Joys and sorrows, all that great stuff. But the question I want to ask is, where are you going as a community? Because a mission is not to stay in the same place, but to go somewhere. You have a great mission statement. You heard it earlier. Northwest UU Congregation is a religious community that challenges us to grow in spirit, knowledge, acceptance, and action. We provide support and warmth in times of need and joy. Lovely things. No problem with that whatsoever. In fact, I looked at a lot of UU church mission statements, and pretty much they all say that. Here's one. We join together in community to encourage and inspire each other's spiritual journeys. That's not you, but it sounds like you. To honor and care for the natural world around us, you'd probably agree with that, and join forces in furthering social justice. You would all agree with that. Another congregation says, our church fosters transformation through a free and inclusive religious community that encourages lives of integrity, service, and joy. You're all on board with that, I'll just bet. We are a welcoming, compassionate community, says another. Sound familiar? Committed to learning, service, social justice, celebrating joy, diversity, and integrity on our spiritual journey. And I could go to every website in the UUA and find one that sounds pretty much just like all of those. That's not a problem. Just notice what we're hearing. We're hearing many of the same things over and over, but what they are all saying is, we're already pretty good, we just want to get better at it. They're not on a mission. They want people to come and join them being good at what they're doing. That's not a mission. It isn't. That's an identity statement. That's a, here's who we are, we want you to be a part of it. Good stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not a mission. A mission has a destination. It's someplace where you are not right now. It is an obligation that you have taken on. In my first sermon that I was going to give, I can tell you there are 3 missions common to every liberal religious community. I've discovered them because I've sampled a bunch of them. They do 3 things, and if they don't do those 3 things, they're not a liberal community. The first one is to free the mind. That is to say, you will take the truth in whatever form it comes, whether it's religious or secular, scientific or literary, historic. Believe it or not, it was a great Protestant theologian, Ulrich Zwingli, I love saying that name, who said, whatever is true is God's word, no matter who said it. We still do that. We follow the truth wherever it leads, even if it goes someplace we didn't expect it to go and don't want it to go. We are not in the believing something false business. Am I correct? All right. So we believe that we have to free the mind, meaning our minds, so we know the truth when we find it. Liberal religious communities do is that's something that was coined by A. Powell Davies, longtime minister in Washington, D.C., who said at one point, life is just a chance to grow a soul. And what he meant was, if you're not changing and growing through your life, why are you bothering? Your job is to become a better human being. And he meant that morally, intellectually, what we would call spiritually. And the last one that all liberal religious communities do is they try to change the world. They don't just hunker down in their little places and wish it all away. All of these are essential to the liberal religious endeavor. If you do the truth part but nothing else, that's really just being a school, and that's great, but you're not a church. If you do the grow the soul part, that's, well, in essence, that's selfish involvement. We'll call it spiritual, but not religious, and you can do it at home with a cup of tea. If you're committed to change the world and you don't care if you're wrong, if you don't care if you do it well, that's called being a fanatic, and I'm not interested in that. We need all 3. A commitment to the truth, a commitment to the spiritual value of my life and yours, and a commitment to the world at large. But when I read those mission statements, that's buried underneath them. And here's a vital difference. You'll understand that when I say free the mind, grow the soul, change the world, I am speaking in what grammarians call the imperative voice. Do those things. Not strive to be those things. It's not a being statement, it's a doing statement. And I really encourage you and all other liberal religious communities to remember a mission is an imperative you are obliged to accomplish. That you're in the business of freeing minds, your own and others, of growing souls, your own and others, of changing your world, the one in which you live and the one beyond your view. A mission is a goal beyond who you are now. In the book of Proverbs, yeah, you're getting a lot of Bible today. It says, without a vision, the people perish. If you don't know where you're going, as someone said, any road will get you there. Where are you going? And I'm not demanding that. I'm putting that question in front of you. Where are you going? Because you see, you're in a place like so many congregations now, especially those between clergy, where you were is no longer where you are, and where you're going, you don't know where you're going yet. It's a place that Susan Beaumont calls the liminal times. And at the moment, you can't figure that out, and that's okay. What I am warning you, wishing, hoping, is that you do not transfer your goal as a community to the goal of finding a minister. That's not your goal. That's a step. That's a vital step. But what's really important is for you to know who you are, and where you want to go. Because when you know that better, you will know better who would be the person to go with you as your spiritual leader. I'm calling you to grow your collective soul over these months so you can help your search committee feel confident that whoever is interested in being your spiritual leader knows exactly where you're going and wants to go with you. What you need is not a Moses. What you need is not an Aaron. What you need is a gardener. Because your mission is already in there. I know it is. And you need someone who is willing to nourish it the way I mentioned at the beginning, by putting the seed in the ground, making sure it is safe, watered, and can grow even in the winter that is this moment of not knowing what the future is. You have a mission. You have a goal, a hope, a dream, a vision beyond who you are right now. It is up to you to claim it, own it, brag about it, hold yourselves accountable to it. Make sure that it expresses your mission, your ministry, the meaning of this institution. And your next clergy person will be the one to remind you of that, in word and deed, Sunday by Sunday, meeting by meeting, to help remind you that the seed will take time to grow, but if you give it the time, it will come forth in a springtime for this organization, with a flower you have not seen, with fruit that you cannot yet imagine, but it will be where you should be. Where are you going? How will you free the minds here and around you? How will you grow your souls? How will you change your world? As you go on that journey, look for someone who wants to go with you and will remind you always that not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Find that person, and I am sure whatever you need to get that person will be right there. With my hope for your future, and with a little bit of warning, because that's my job, I will be with you until that moment arrives, because I want you to be on your way. So with those words, and having spoken too long, it's time for them to sing and you to hum. Am I right? All right. So Alex, it's time for you to swap places with Ben. That's for the people back at the back in Zoom land, because we got to play musical chairs. And they're going to sing, and then Diana's going to say we're done, and then we're going to break up into whatever breaking up we do, and I'm looking forward to having lunch with y'all. Thanks for letting me drop by. Let's hear the singing, shall we? Come on, Alex, we're waiting on you.
Our closing words are Be About the Work by Andrea Hawkins Kemper. May we see all as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is answering the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now, to be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of building the beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience. And because our service went over an hour, I don't have to extinguish the chalice. It has a timer.